Hey guys, this is Caroline, and today I wanted to give you a couple of updates on my 3D printer, a couple of things I've printed, and a couple of the mods that I've done and changes and updates I've made. So let me start with a couple of the things that I've made with my 3D printer since I got it. When I ended the last video, I had just finished the Yoda print. It came out perfectly, and since then I've made a couple more things. So for example, here I've 3D printed in pink filament a holder for my wireless charger. My wireless charger used to sit on the countertop plugged in, and then to charge it I would lay my phone down, and then I would have to look over and see the time or see what the last notification was. With the stand-up wireless charger, printed this out. It fits perfectly. The power cable plugs in the back, and then I can look at my phone if I see any notifications. It can sit portrait like this or landscape like this. So huge improvement, and I printed this off Thingiverse. I will link to it below if you want to print the same thing. And this is specific for a fast charger Samsung wireless fast charger. I'm also trying to get into personalization and custom items with my 3D printer. I went on Thingiverse, I downloaded this little geometric bowl here. Then I went to Tinkercad and I added my initial. You'll see for Caroline, and it's raised up just ever so slightly in the bowl. And I printed out a bowl with my initial in it, and it's a little personalized bowl, and I thought these would be great little gifts, stocking stuffers. And I put my rings in here or jewelry in here, and it's a perfect little plastic dish. In terms of prototyping and custom items, I had a friend and she had these little beads that she was working on a craft project for. She was making little scarves, decorating scarves with these beads, and she said she could not find these beads in the store or online anywhere, and she wanted this specific dimension. So I took my caliper tool out here and I measured the inside, the outside, the width, the height, and even the inside of this bead. I went on Tinkercad and I made this bead. Hopefully you can see it in the camera here. And here are the two beads. Hopefully you can see them. And they're almost identical. And so she's really excited about getting some exactly the same size beads. Using Tinkercad or Thingiverse or a combination thereof, you can make custom items with your 3D printer. Now let's talk about the 3D printer and the mods that I've done to the 3D printer. So a lot of people have asked me, hey, where'd you put your 3D printer, or how'd you find a spot for your 3D printer? The truth is, I did go to the IKEA store and I did buy a separate table for my 3D printer. And I bought a table where I bought the 4 legs separately, and the legs have little adjustments at the bottom, because the table has to be perfectly level, and then you've got to perfectly level the bed on the table. So it was really important for me to be able to get a table that would be perfectly level, and then be able to level my bed as well. Oh, so when I assembled my printer, over here on the side is where you put an SD card. So the idea is that you have a micro SD card right here, and it goes into this little slot in the top, and then you put this in your computer and you download the files, you slice the files, you save the files onto this little SD card, and then you eject the card out of your computer, take the SD card, and you pop it into the printer here on the side. Then you turn on the printer. I'm not going to turn on the printer just because it's really loud and it's going to affect the audio quality of this YouTube video. Printer, and there are these 5 buttons, and you're trying to navigate to the file and then print the file. That was fun for the first day. It got really old really quickly, and I thought, why is this not a wireless printer? It's 2017, almost 2018 now. So I did some research, and literally I followed step-by-step instructions from a video I saw on Adafruit. Thank you very much for putting out that video. And I will link to the Adafruit video below. What I learned was to take my Raspberry Pi 3, print out this case. I had already bought this 3.5-inch Raspberry Pi touch display. I purchased this. I was going to make a video about it, Kind of never got around to it, sorry guys. But it turns out there's a specific driver that you've got to download that's specific to whichever 3.5-inch display that you buy. And you load on the driver and it's pretty much self-explanatory from there. So I had this touch display. I had my Raspberry Pi. I'm gonna put them together right here for you. There's no soldering involved. Push that down. I've popped the Raspberry Pi 3 with the touchscreen display into the bottom of my case. Now I will put the top on here, and it's a perfect fit. There, and it just pops right on, and it's a perfect size display for my Raspberry Pi. And what was really adorable was it also had a little stand you could print out. So I printed out the stand, and then it looks like a little miniature computer here. Now the only problem with this is that there's nothing to stick it onto, and it kind of starts sliding off. So I got a little bit of mounting putty, and I just stuck it on together. And here's my mounting putty. Stuck a little bit on the bottom here of my case. Now this is non-toxic. I'll link to it below. And then I kind of just stuck it on. Stuck it on right here onto the base, and then it doesn't fall off anymore. And from here, I'll plug in my Raspberry Pi. So this is the power supply for my Raspberry Pi right here. And it turns it into a little display for my printer. I almost forgot, you do have to plug the Raspberry Pi into the printer itself. It's got a printer port right here, and I'm going to plug it into the printer here, plug it into my USB right here on the Raspberry Pi. I also had a wireless keyboard that I had purchased previously, and it is just plug and play USB. Simple as that. Put that in there, and this was one of the coolest things that I did for my 3D printer. I took out my old Logitech 9000, and this works with all sorts of webcams, and there's a whole list, and they give you all sorts of configuration stuff. Luckily, my Logitech 9000 worked by default, and I didn't do any configurations beyond just setting up my webcam for OctoPrint. The ADA Fruit video that I was watching that I'll link to below had instructions on taking a Raspberry Pi camera and hooking it up to view what was going on with my 3D printer. Now, if you look at the instructions carefully, the first set of instructions are actually for a regular webcam. Then I printed out a little stand here, and my Logitech 9000 fits perfectly into this little stand. So this Logitech camera I've had for years. I haven't used it for years, but now it has been reborn into a new era of 3D printing. Now I'm going to plug that in to my Pi as well. So with this upgrade, with the OctoPrint and my Logitech webcam, I can send print jobs from my computer to the Pi, to OctoPrint, and then it'll print on my 3D printer. And OctoPrint works great on your local network. So while you're on your home Wi-Fi, bang, you can view what's going on. So you're in another room, you can start a print job, cancel a print job if you see things going wrong. Perfect. The next question was, hey, how do I control it remotely if I'm not on my home Wi-Fi? Well, that's where AstroPrint app comes in. First of all, you install the plugin into OctoPrint, you restart your OctoPrint server on your Pi, and then you install an app on your tablet, on your phone. They've got iOS, they have Android app, and then you can remotely start, stop your print jobs with an app on your phone. So let's say I've got to go out and go to the grocery store, run an errand, and I want to continue monitoring my print job. And so I'm at Target and I see it go awry. I can stop it right there. So that was super cool, and I will link to all of that below. Literally, I just followed step-by-step instructions and got it all set up. If you want me to do more about AstroPrint, OctoPrint, leave a comment below and let me know. That's what I did for remote monitoring and remote sending to my 3D printer. Let's talk about some hardware upgrades that I've made. The first biggest hardware upgrade I made is moving my filament. The default is there is a stand for your filament over to the side, kind of over here on your printer. And I hated that. I like the filament to have a more direct route into the extruder, and having it above was a definite improvement. I had to print out these supports right here. The other thing I had to do was go to the hardware store. The rod that the filament spool sat on that it came with was only wide enough for one roll of filament, and it wasn't wide enough to go all the way across my printer. So I went to my hardware store, I bought a wider rod, and I bought new bolts because this one is in metric and I couldn't find the exact same thing. So I bought something really, really similar in English system, in inches over here. So now I've got my filament above my printer. That was huge. One more thing that drove me crazy when I first started printing is the large hole in these filament spools. The default was to have this small rod. The filament would spin off of the rod, and it would just be very unbalanced, and that just drove me nuts. I had to 3D print some supports that fit my filament perfectly. So like this, and like this, and then show you how this works. Now the filament spins perfectly balanced on the rod. And now I have, so I printed out a few of these spool holders, I don't know what you call them, and I have them up here on either side of my filaments. And it was also great that this wider configuration, I can have two filament spools up here instead of just one. That way when I need to change the color, it's a little bit easier if the color I'm changing to is already up here. Another problem that I had when I first started 3D printing, the bed came with this painter's tape attached to it. And it was great. The first couple prints came out perfectly. You saw the Yoda. It was done on this kind of tape and it was perfect. Well, it started to wear down and they said, okay, just get some more painter's tape and just put it on. So I put it on. None of my prints would stick. It was harrowing and I didn't know what was wrong because it looked like exactly the same thing. So I did a little research and I found that you could buy a cover for your printer bed. And so I've got one right here. It comes in a pack of 3 for about $15 to $20. So I think I kind of went on the low end with this and I bought the $15 ones. So really this broke down to $5 a piece. I bought 3 of these. I laid it down here. It is a perfect fit. But when I first put it on and I did my first print on it, it was stuck down. I went from my prints not sticking to it being too sticky. They would not come off the bed anymore. Watched another YouTube video from somebody else, thank you so much, who that explained if you have a stuck on print on your 3D printer bed and you've got one of these beds, get a little keyboard cleaner, a little dusting, and just spray it down, try to get kind of in between your print and the bed. Spray it down. It doesn't hurt the bed. This is for electronic use and it's just compressed air. And I sprayed it down and pop, it just came right up. I didn't have to use strength. Just a little spray, leave it on for a second and it would just pop right up. One of the tips I saw just said to spray it down with a little bit of alcohol, 50% alcohol, 50% water, spray it down, wipe it down between each print. I also, try to make sure the bed is always level. So just best practices for running my 3D printer. And that is a wrap for the updates, upgrades, mods that I've done on my 3D printer since I got it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe. See you next time. Bye.